Hello everyone. Sorry here. Thank you so much for joining me for my Kendra Card challenge. This is the continuation from the blog hop that I did, and I was doing sketch number 4. I did make a mistake, and the first two cards are not recorded properly. I thought it was recording, and then I did the reverse, and so yeah, you'll see. So right now that's why it is paused, because this is the finished card for sketch number 1, and I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to see it while I did the intro. There's a few things here. I did follow the sketch pretty well, and I used some elements from my favorite thing stamp for the sentiment and the tombstone. But the skull and the ghost is from Cat Scrappiness dies. One is called Boogity Ghost, which I think is sold out now, and the other one is Cast a Spell. I will put all these items into the description below in case you are interested. Okay, for sketch number 2, this is also recorded wrong. I'm actually, when I'm doing these videos, I make every card in advance because it's just quicker that way. And then when I go to shoot the video, I do a pre-assemble just to refresh my memory what I had envisioned. So that's what this is. So I actually accidentally recorded my pre-recording and instead of the actual recording. So this is me playing around trying to remember how I wanted this card in the first place. So what you'll notice with all these sketches is, because this is a 17 card video minus card 4, because I already did a blog hop on it, or video hop, I die cut, I've prepared everything just so that you can see what the cards look like much quicker. Otherwise this video would be way over an hour and plus. But keeping that in mind, if there is anything you would like to know more about, always feel free to leave something in the comments. I'm here to, I can show you, I can go into more details in just replying or whatever. But if enough people are asking for how did I do something, or I'd like to know more information, then I will definitely provide that. So don't feel like this is just it. I'm willing to share my knowledge of what I do have. So to finish this card off, I am just going to add some of these dots. Now this was tricky because this is from Cat Scrappiness Cast a Spell. So those potion bottles and those little dots all come from that. And there's a lot of different sizes for those dots, and I decided just to use them. And I'm just kind of going around the sides just to have like a bubbly effect. The Hocus Pocus is a Sizzix Halloween die set that I got recently, and it's just a bunch of bold Halloween sentiments. They are die cuts, so you actually have to glue them individually. But what I didn't actually show you is I used the cutout as my stencil almost, where I can just plug the letters back in, which you would have seen if I actually recorded the right thing. But that being said, we're now back to normal. Every card now is being recorded properly. Hopefully I don't do that again in future videos, but I probably will. It's just who I am. Okay, so card number 3. And this one is following the sketch pretty well. I'm also using a Cat Scrappiness die. It's a distressed oval die. And I cut that into 2 layers, one black and one white. I kept this one kind of simple. I didn't color in the spider. The spider and the sentiment is a Lawn Fawn stamp set. And it's called Fangtastic Friends. So I stamped that in the middle. I wanted to tie it in with spider pattern paper. And it's just a very simple card with, I just like that sentiment so much. You'll see me use it a couple times. Now I did purposely make the oval pretty big because if you look at the colored diamond pattern paper, there was some orange on it. And I wanted to keep this card just the 3, black, purple, and green. So the sentiment is in green. I did heat emboss that, and I got it from the Simon Says mystery box or whatever it was called earlier this year, and it came with this lime Ricky embossing powder, so I thought I'd give it a try. It looks pretty close to the green pattern paper. And then I'm just going to add some purple dots, just try to figure out where I want to put them. I probably should have colored in the spider. I just really didn't want to ruin it. I was afraid of coloring it. And here's just the recap of card number 4. I did do a video hop on that, so you can definitely check that out if you're interested in how I created this one. And card number 5. There we go, card number 5. For this one, I'm going to play around with the nice bright black and orange colors on this pattern paper. The nice thing about these patterns is that it's double-sided, so I can choose which one I want. As you can see, it was either bats or candy corn. And the bats definitely were not going to suffice for this card. I just really like those candy corn and then that little swirly black and orange pattern paper. I'm going to try to create a scene with this one, and I'm going to be using the sentiment Trick or Treat. The Trick or Treat's more for the candy. The potion is just fun. So I'm going to create a shelf, and so I'm not following the sketch exactly. That rectangular bar that's kind of in the middle there, I'm going to use my shelf as that rectangular bar. So I'm going to bring it right down to the bottom, and I'm going to add some potion bottles to that. The square, which says any 2-inch shape, mine is not 2 inches, nor is it a square. It is the rectangle that says Trick or Treat on it. And in this case, instead of cutting out the letters and gluing them down, I did the reverse of using the negative and then gluing a yellow mustard cardstock behind it. So now I have the yellow text instead of actually having to glue it down to a piece of black cardstock. It doesn't matter which way you go. If you want to glue down the letters or just do the negative, they both look really nice. And it's just a lot of fun to play with. I do like to play around with this sentiment bundle to see the different ways of using it and make it look. So I am propping that up with some foam tape. And there we go. That's card number 5. Card number 6, I'm going to be playing with this pumpkin die. I really like the pumpkin. It had these awesome, scary little faces. One of them kind of looked like a ghost face. I didn't use it, but it was interesting. But I really liked this monstrous face, the mwahaha type face. I really like it. It's kind of cute. So you will notice that in this time around, I'm not following the sketches exactly. I'm trying to focus on scenes. I want to play around and just create different looks. However, I am using the pattern paper that is for the sketch. So I'm not cutting those down. I'm using them as best as I can, but I'm trying to incorporate some story or a theme or something. I'm just having fun with it, especially with these Halloween dies that I got. I'm just having a lot of fun with it. So in this case, I am following the sketch with the pattern paper, but then I added a yellow bar across, kind of like just a tabletop or just kind of a setting. And then I put that big pumpkin on top of all those layers. I did put a moon behind the spider pattern paper, and then I'm tying in some bats because those are to tie in with the bat pattern paper. So I'm trying to just create this Halloween scene. I know it's not a black sky like it would be in the Halloween, but it's going to be white. That is totally fine. I am okay with it. I'm then going to finish it off with the sentiment, Happy Halloween, which is coming very soon. I'm excited. Okay, card number 7. This is going to be another fun little scene. And it will have a black background, so it's going to be a nice night sky. I did already heat set Happy Halloween on the side there. And I do have it going vertically just because the sentiment is pretty long. And I want to make sure it doesn't overlap all these layers that are going to be coming in if you look at the sketch there. You may notice that some of these cardstock pieces have white on the background. That's because, for example there, I miscut a few sheets when I was following the instructions. And instead of using a new sheet of paper, I just glued them all back to a piece of white cardstock and then recut everything. So, I mean, if you don't like that, definitely use up new pieces of paper if you want. It does leave cut lines, but I'm okay with it. I try to hide them with embellishments and stuff. It was just easier than trying to grab new sheets and doing it all over again. So in this case, I cut all these sheets wrong, and so I had to use these designs. And the reason I say that is because I wouldn't have used those bats. I didn't think the bats really fit with this theme of a night sky with the nice purples and oranges and purple, oranges and greens, and also this gray bats. But I had no choice, and so what I did to kind of hide it a bit is I cut a frame using some nested square dies. I put that there, and it kind of softens it a bit so it's not so harsh. And then I'm going to put this ghost here to kind of to hide it a bit more. I'm going to bring in some bats, and these are going to be cut in the similar colors that are on the stripes of the pattern paper there. And then once again, try to cover more of that gray pattern paper. And then it's not looking so noticeable. When I was trying to design this card off screen, it took a bit to figure out how can I mute that gray background. So that's that one. That's card number 7. It was a lot of fun to make that one. Card number 8 is a bit plain. Once again, I have that spider there and I didn't color it in. I was wanting to color it with alcohol markers, and I only really have a black. And I think that if you color with black, it doesn't look right. If I remember correctly. I didn't even try. I just have a feeling you won't even see, it'll just be a blob. So I left it, and it's just going to be a nice, simple card. The only color really is going to be the sentiment, those stars, and then the pattern paper in the center, which also includes some stars. I'm just following the sketch. These sketches were actually pretty interesting in this challenge. I was worried I was going to miscut them because cutting on an angle is not as easy as cutting straight lines, right? But it turned out really well. I was really shocked. That being said, if you miscut, there's always a fun way of just hiding it by cutting thin strips of cardstock and just going over, and then it creates a border and it hides any imperfections that could have happened. I am going to prop up this panel, and it just gives a nice little looks because the card is so striking white. Just propping it up creates this shadow, which is kind of nice. The purple I used in the sentiment is, I think it's a VersaFine Clair ink I purchased, and I wanted to give it a try, and then I heat set that with clear embossing powder. And then I'm going to just use some of these stars. This is just a star die that I got from one of the Spellbinders kits of last year, I believe. And I just cut them in the same color, similar colors as that pattern paper, and I just glued them to the sides there. For card number 9, you might be wondering, what the heck are those black things? So, I have a lot of scraps. Especially when I was working on these cards, I created a lot of black scraps. So, I wanted to just try to use them and create a cave type theme to this card. When I saw this sketch, and based on the fact that I'm working on Halloween cards, I kind of imagined there was like a moon shining through a crack inside of the cave. That's kind of how it is. Unfortunately, the circle I use is so small, the only sentiment I had around that I could easily grab was the smile sentiment from that Lawn Fawn Fangtastic Friends stamp set. So I just did that one, and I thought that was kind of fun. My partner didn't get it, but sometimes you just make cards just for fun and smile. And so these black scraps, I'm kind of creating a cave where it's just rock. It's just natural rock on the ceiling and on the floor, just moving its way. And then I have some bats flying, and there's some stars to tie it on them. So I had a lot of fun with this one. For card number 10, I had a lot of fun, and I did not follow the sketch at all. But that's because when I looked at it, I was so inspired by the shape of it, of the pattern paper, that I wanted to do this. And it just worked out so well for me. You can see that I already cut it. I just cut right down the middle, and then I fold both sides. What I'm creating is a suit. So there's the pocket, and then the two folds is the collar. So I'm going to take some double-sided tape and just put it right on the tips of the collars there, because I don't want them to be flat completely. I want them to have a little bit of lift so that it creates that shadow and it's not so flat. And then I took this piece and I add some foam tape just so that's lifted. And the reason for that is because of the collar. I want to get over the collar and not have any sagging. I want it to be nice and flush. And it's going to represent the tie of this suit. A nice Halloween suit. Now, I could have added a lot more embellishments and stuff, but I kept it nice and plain. The only thing is I did have to trim a bit of that pattern paper, but because the pattern in the design was hidden behind a sun or a circle, I just thought, yeah, well, what's the difference of me cutting it off or hiding it? So I thought I would get away with it. For card number, what's this, 11? For that background, I actually used the Sizzix Luster Wax. And I wanted to show you, but I'm running out of time. I want to get this going. I actually used a star stencil, and I put it on the black cardstock. And when I picked up the stencil, it didn't look that great on the pattern paper. So what I did was I just kind of smeared it once across and moved down. So it's like layers. And it created this really neat, hazy, mystical purple sky. If you're interested in it, I can always show you a video on how I'm making another card, but I really like that. And of course, then I created a shaker card using some cat Scrappiness fillers, and I had a lot of fun with that, just playing with it and shaking it. And then the sentiment is, hope you have a spooktacular day, which was a long, fun sentiment. For card number 12, this one is I had a vision in my head, and I see it, but it's really just abstract. I wanted to create a little scene. I'll let you guys fill in what you think it is in the comments below if you so wish. But I'm just creating a scene here. It's just a scrap piece of green cardstock that I inked up with some black ink. And then I'm just going to kind of follow this sketch, but I'm going to put them in an angle. One in the front and then two more in the back, further back. And then I'm going to have my moon in there and also distress each piece just to kind of give it a little wear. I did such a light scratch that you can barely see it unless it's up close. And then it's going to glue those down. I could have added some backing to them because there are the two layers, because that mound, the grass mound or grass hill I should say, is higher up, but it didn't noise it too much with this. I am going to prop up my ghost who's holding a lollipop, and I'm going to put that right in front of the candy background. And then for the candy corn background, I'm just going to put my sentiment boo, which correlates with that cute little ghost holding the candy. It is a little bit hard to read, trying to fit that in there. I tried to leave a little bit of border so that you see the orange. When it's hanging over in the purple, it does get lost a bit, but I think it's good. It worked pretty well. And then I'll just put a little dot there, and that's it. And let's move on. This video, let's not make it too long. Card number 13. This was cute. I love this one. So I got a new die for Halloween, and it's this moon. And what I did was I put some ink on the die. I think it was a distress ink. Oh, which one was it? Antique linen or burlap something burlap sack maybe, and I put it on the die before I die cut it. And it created this really muddy effect on the moon. And it wouldn't look good in some cases, but on the moon, it looks really neat. It really emphasized the little indents, the little craters and such, but it also made this kind of murky looking moon, which I loved. This pattern paper that I'm using is really bold, and I love it so much, but because it's such harsh differences between the pattern paper, I'm going to do something I like to do, and that's just add some strips to separate each distinct layer. I could use Love from Lizzie Pilas, but I decided to use the black cardstock because, like I said, I have so much scraps from doing these cards that I'm going to try to use as much of those as I can. And then I'm going to glue down my moon. I'm not worried about any dimension or anything, and I'm going to put that right in the corner. And then I will add my sentiment right there in the middle. I like it in that where it's kind of half covering the moon and going across. It just really, really pops for me. And it says, wishing you a very sweet day. I'm going to prop up the whole panel and then put that onto my base. And then whatever is hanging over, I will trim it off. So it is going over the top panel onto the card base, but then, of course, then you chop it off on the base. You could have made it so that it fit just the panel, but I liked it how it was just really over top of everything. I really like that. For card number 14, this is the same sketch, but however, I didn't want to use the exact same paper, so I flipped it. So now I'm using spider webs and the orange spiral paper. It's totally fine, you can totally do this, but you're just going to have to switch your paper around and your sketch is not going to match exactly. It's going to be on the top instead of the bottom. I am gluing these all to a piece of scrap white cardstock because it's going to be much easier to work with when I do that. Because if there's anything, for example, hanging or it's just not cut right, you can always trim things off. So I don't usually ever glue right to a base, a card base. So I did the same thing, but instead of black, used white. But I'm going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to start adding more pieces. And I'm really fast forwarding this because it took a while to do this. It's very tedious. But I'm going to keep adding these strips, and what I'm going to create is a faux spider web. So there's the spider webs on the pattern paper, and then I'm going to add a white one over top of everything. And the reason I wanted white was because it wasn't going to be so distracting. I could have done black, it might have worked as well, but I really like the white. I really like how that all turned out. And it's just a very subtle. And I'm just going to put my moon there. I already trimmed it off because I was testing when I was pre-creating my cards, just to know where it's going to fit. I'm not going to bother propping this one up this time. I'm going to glue it straight down. You can prop it up with foam tape if you want, or you can just glue it down like I did this time. I did put the moon down, but then I decided I didn't like where it was positioned because there's like a tiny little white speck in the top left corner, as you can see there. So I'm going to lift that up and then re-glue it down to cover that so it's covering the whole corner and not just some of it. And I like that a little bit. I like that a little bit better. I did ink the moon with some black ink just so it's not so bright yellow. Or it is kind of like a mustard yellow. I have that spider again that I've used, and this time I did set it white on black. And then I just die cut this silhouette branch that it's coming from. And I'm just going to trim that all off. And then for the sentiment, I also use another white embossing on black, and it says, I love hanging out with you. I'm sure a lot of people would not enjoy hanging out with a spider, but this smiley little friend definitely would like to hang out with you. He has a lot of stories to tell, and he would love the company. It's a cute little guy. Okay, card number 15. For this one, I am following the sketch pretty closely. No, I'm not. I will follow the pattern paper exactly as it's meant to be. But I'm not going to use a big circle. I'm going to use another one of those sentiments, and you could see it there kind of underneath all that paper. And it's another one of the Sizzix Halloween sentiments, and it says, "I'm here for the candy," which is tying with all the candy on the paper, pattern paper, and then the ghost holding 2 lollipops. This sentiment took a bit because I cut it twice, layered it, and then I put 2 layers of glossy accents over it. I did this because I really want it to look like a hard candy. And it really turned out well. I had to be very careful and be very slow in doing it because I didn't want it to fall onto the black paper otherwise, and it will shine if you do that. So what I did was I just was very careful moving it around all the letters. It did take a while, and to dry it took a whole evening and the next day, probably 24 hours before I felt safe to use it. Card number 16, I did another scene. I love this one. It turned out so cute. I am going to follow a sketch, but I'm not going to put the circle exactly in the center there. I'm going to have it down a little bit lower and representing the moon rising. I'm going to add some more black strips here to separate. This really looks good on this particular card. It's just because those 2 pattern papers are they're really pretty. And then you put that yellow center and then put the black strips. It just really pops. I love this so much. I decided not to prop this one up because I'm going to be doing some more layers, and I thought this would be easier. And that's this silhouette tree die that I got. I'm going to re-glue that. I realized I should have glued the trees down as well, so it's not popping up. I don't want them to rip off. And on that it says, "Hope you have a spooktacular day," and that's heat set in white. And there I'm going to put my circle down just so that those trees get highlighted so you can really see them. To finish it off, I'm just going to use this bat. This is just a bat that's off of a My Favorite Things stamp set that I use all the time. And that's that. Love that card. Last card, here we go. Okay, I'm not overly impressed with this card, but I wanted to get my cards done. I don't know if you're ever like that, where it's just like you're thinking so much and then you just can't think anymore. Well, this is this card. but I did take the time to color the spiders. I decided to color them yellow because there was yellow moons on this pattern paper. Like I said, I didn't want to color it black. I was afraid of it just being black blobs. I don't know how it will probably look. Yeah, I'm certain it'll look like black blobs. So I colored them yellow. I've never seen a yellow spider, but I thought maybe they're less scary if they're yellow. So I colored 2 of them, and we can pretend the bottom one's an ant. There we go. I'm not even a big fan of spiders, but these are too cute. So I found the sketch pretty close, if not exactly the same, except because my nested square dies aren't as thin as the sketch, they will be a little bit thicker, but I'm following it very closely. Probably the only one so far that's actually been bang on exactly as the sketch. Now that's the thing, you do not have to follow the sketch. The idea is it helps you, but you definitely want to use the pieces that you're given. But if you have inspiration on how to make it, I say go for it. Make your own card and show your imagination in any way you want. I think that's great. However, sometimes it is nice to follow the sketch because they're perfect to make nice, simple cards. So it doesn't matter which way you go. It's going to be awesome. To finish this card off, I am just going to put some black dots. These are hole punched from my scrap black cardstock, which I have a pile of it now. And then I'm just going to glue those down with some Simon Crafty tacky glue. And that is the end of card 17. Happy Halloween! Now I'm just going to show you each card a little bit slower. As you can see, when it's not even any point for me to show it the way I do because it's going so fast that it doesn't blur. So that's why I like to show it this way as well. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said before, everything was pre-cut, everything was done just to keep this video down. It's already still fairly long, so hopefully you enjoyed that. You can always pause it and stuff, but if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want to know more, I can always create another video to create the similar card just to show you what I've done and make it more detailed. But all the information should be in the description below if I remember, and it will show you all the products that I used. I do believe those ghosts, though, are sold out last time I saw, and I'm not sure if they're going to bring them back or not. I really like them. Anyways, these are my Halloween cards. I have to hurry up and get this posted tonight or tomorrow because Halloween is so close. And I really want to make sure that these get out before, because once it gets November, then Halloween it's almost like passe. Like, we don't even talk about it anymore. So thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you have built some inspiration. Maybe you see these card sketches in a new way. Just have some fun. I hope you have a wonderful, awesome time. And if you're trick-or-treating, stay safe. Have a great time with the kids, or if you're adults, you can trick-or-treat like that too. I'm not judging in any way. I would totally do it if I wasn't afraid. Anyways, take care. Love you bunches, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.